It's Thursday, March 5th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Despite calls to reverse cuts, Nova Scotia's premier vows the budget will not change. As tanker traffic stalls, will the war in the Middle East impact cargo to maritime ports?
Cold again tomorrow, then temperatures rise on the weekend, accompanied by some wet weather.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. The Maritimes is, of course, a long way from the Middle East, but in the heavily integrated world of shipping, our region is not exempt from what's going on there. Fighting is impacting cargo traffic, and it could soon be felt at our ports. CTV's Jonathan McGinnis reports.
It's business as usual today at the Port of Halifax, but eyes are fixed on the conflict on the other side of the globe.
The entire global supply chain is interconnected, so when there's a ripple in one place, it eventually will ripple out to other places.
The U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran has brought shipping in the Strait of Hormuz to a near standstill.
This really narrow choke point waterway is critical to the global economy.
20% of the world's daily supply of oil flows through the 33-kilometer wide passage between Iran and Oman. Following attacks and threats of more from Iran, 200 vessels are now anchored in the strait, many carrying petroleum products or consumer goods.
This higher inflation will impact the end consumer in a whole different number of ways. Costs for travel will increase. Costs for groceries, in terms of the cost of getting groceries into supermarkets, will increase as well.
Prices at the checkout could jump significantly within a few weeks, according to Sylvain Charlebois.
If diesel goes up 25%, coupled with the increase of the carbon tax on April 1st, because that does still exist, the industrial carbon tax, we're likely going to see food inflation go up by as much as 0.7%.
Halifax Port Authority Vice President Paul McIsaac says he's not just watching incoming cargo. Exports could also soon be affected.
We connect with 150 countries around the world, so some of the product goes to that region.
500,000 containers a year pass through the Port of Halifax. Officials here say they're ready and able to increase the amount of cargo the port handles should the need present itself. Jonathan McGinnis, CTV News, Halifax.
We're going to focus on the oil portion for tonight's CTV web poll, and we're asking, should governments temporarily reduce gas taxes during the conflict in the Middle East? Your options, two of them tonight. Yes, to ease any potential spike in prices. No, this is not the time to reduce gas taxes. Now, later in the newscast, we will discuss the price of oil. And to vote at the poll, go to the website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Halifax police are investigating an unusual shooting tonight. Police were called to reports of an injured person in the busy Burnside Industrial Park this morning. Officers found a 23-year-old man with shotgun wounds near Wright and Garland Avenues. He was rushed to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators do not believe the incident was random and don't believe he was shot at that location. The probe continues. A search for a missing 21-year-old in Bridgewater ended in tragedy after police found remains in a wooded area. Finn McDormand was reported missing by their parents Tuesday afternoon. An investigation was launched. Police say the family had concerns about McDormand's well-being because of medical issues. Officers used a drone, a canine unit, and public appeal for help.
We located the individual. They were deceased. We treat every sudden death investigation as suspicious until we can determine the cause of death. In this case, like always, we let the medical examiner's office or service in Nova Scotia determine the cause of death.
The search lasted nearly 23 hours, and McDormand was found by the canine unit. A homeless advocate in Moncton is trying to bring more attention to a homicide investigation that police aren't saying much about. CTV's Derek Haggett has the story.
Charlie Burrell doesn't want anyone to forget about a woman who was recently killed and dumped at the end of a street.
She was a good person. She didn't deserve this.
The Humanity Project founder posted a plea to the RCMP on Facebook Wednesday night, asking for more information on the homicide investigation. The body of a 39-year-old Moncton woman was discovered in a garbage bin on High Street just after noon on February 15th.
This has been a huge impact on our community, and it's so dehumanizing to take somebody and put them in a garbage can and leave them on the side of the street like a piece of garbage. And she deserves justice, and she deserves better than that.
The RCMP's major crime unit is handling the investigation and have been in contact with the victim's family, but few other details are known. A spokesperson for the New Brunswick RCMP told CTV News this afternoon that as of now, there's no new information to share with the public. Burrell fully understands it's a police investigation and not all information can be shared with the public, but he says people are scared.
I think if you look around in Moncton, like with the drive-by shootings and, murders and the assaults and different things, there's a lot of people who are feeling unsafe in their own community. And for the people that are actually out there on the streets and living out there, they feel really unsafe.
He knows who the victim is, but won't identify her.
I'm a father. I'm a human being, and I care about my community. And there are people out there who loved her and who cared about her and who have heard nothing.
Burrell says someone from the woman's grieving family reached out and thanked him for the post. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
An inmate serving a life sentence in reduced maximum security prison has died in custody. Corrections Canada says 55-year-old Calvin Lewis died Monday. No details have been released. Lewis was charged in the 2020 murder of his 43-year-old girlfriend, Tina Tingley McAleer. They were in a relationship and lived together in Hillsborough, New Brunswick. The victim was found in the house. Lewis was arrested driving nearby. McAleer's family told CTV News Tina was a protective mother figure to everyone she knew. Rallies have become commonplace at Province House since Nova Scotia's budget was tabled. Groups and individuals are demanding the government reverse tens of millions of dollars in cuts. But as CTV's Jesse Thomas tells us, the Premier insists that will not happen.
Premier Tim Houston tabled his Defending Nova Scotia budget last week, and he's been defending it ever since as opposition press him over the $104 million in spending cuts.
Why won't the Premier actually defend Nova Scotia? Order.
As the Speaker called for order, the Premier pointed to the $1.2 billion deficit for driving the cuts.
I know that families are dealing with challenging times. So is the government. $1.2 billion deficit last year, $1.2 billion deficit this year. It's not sustainable in the long term. We've had to make some decisions.
There's been plenty of backlash outside the legislature as well. 2 days of protests this week, including a rally against cuts to the arts and culture sector yesterday that saw hundreds of people fill the street outside the Province House. Today, Houston tabled a document that appeared to be a social media post from an arts group who attended the rally, which opposition leader Claudia Chender liked on Instagram.
It has to do with the Raise Your Taxes rally yesterday organized by the NDP and the NDP leaders' support of the raising of taxes thing.
Houston said the NDP were organizers of the rally, but didn't give evidence to back the claim.
I did not organize the rally.
The NDP leader called the Premier's claims absurd.
The Premier is trying to sow division and misinformation. You will see it more and more from him and his ministers as a shield for the trouble they're in and the decisions they made.
To Houston's point, the rally did hear a cheer that called on raising the HST back to 15%. Houston cut the HST to 14%, something that saves the average family more than $1,000 per year, said Houston, but resulted in the loss of $260 million in government revenue. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
There's a live look right now at the traffic on the Confederation Bridge, where it is currently a very cold -11. Kayla Mitchell in the Weather Center. The politics might be hot. The temperatures certainly are not.
If we need cooler heads to prevail, everybody just needs to step outside.
That's right.
It's very cold out there. As we saw, -11 there at the Confederation Bridge. That's not even the coldest temperature, so coming in from Prince Edward Island, we've got -13 at Summerside right now and -12 at Charlottetown. We have some colder temperatures as well around the north and east of Nova Scotia, -10 at Sydney, -11 at Eskasoni, -11 at Amherst this hour. Same thing goes for Moncton. Other parts of the Maritimes now mostly sitting several degrees below the freezing mark. And now in the southwest of Nova Scotia, it was like the one lone holdout in the region today that had a few temperatures to get on the plus side of the scale. back below 0 now. So very cold night ahead. Taking a look at the winds, they're still mostly out of the north and northeast. They're being sustained in a lot of cases between around 5 and 10 kilometers per hour. There's a few sites reporting some slightly gustier winds, including at Briar Island. There's a wind there being sustained close to 43 kilometers per hour, and weather station at Grand Manan reporting a gust at 30. The cloud outlook for this evening and tonight, there is going to be an area of some broken cloud cover that sits around the southwest of New Brunswick and western areas of Nova Scotia. So that part of the Maritimes a little bit more on the partly cloudy side tonight. Other parts of the region looking at mainly clear but cold conditions, which if you're going to brave the colder temperatures means it is an ideal night for some night sky viewing. It's a waning gibbous moon, 95% illuminated. That'll be rising above the eastern horizon by around 9:30 p.m. That's when you should have a good view of it above the east. The planet Jupiter, you can spot that earlier, high above the southern horizon this evening. The aurora is unlikely to be observed tonight. There's a very quick pass from the International Space Station early tomorrow morning from the south to southeast. Only about a minute long, though, Todd, and very low in the sky. So I'd sit that one out. The next chance that we have of maybe a better pass will be coming up on March 10th.
Okay, very good. We'll see you later in the show. Thank you, Kaylin. Military housing, like society in general, can't keep up with demand. But in Halifax, an announcement has members of the armed forces feeling rather optimistic. About 400 new housing units will be built in the Halifax area. Most of them will be 1- and 2-bedroom apartments built within the existing military housing areas near the Canadian Forces base in the city. And the government says the expansion will help support military families, improve recruitment and retention, as well as take some pressure off the local housing market.
They've been moving at a speed and a scale that we haven't seen in Canada, which is great. We do need to do this quickly and with urgency, so the sooner the better, really.
The exact locations will be decided after site studies are completed. With a wait list in the thousands, finding a health provider on PEI is a daunting challenge, and the problem could get worse as some doctors pull up shop and leave the province. CTV's Maria Saru finds out what's fueling the exodus.
Dr. Heather Austin loves her work as a family physician, but in the past year, she says it's become too challenging to practice in PEI, partly because of how the health authority is treating doctors.
It comes down to the relationship and the lack of respect that we have been shown. I think they need to listen to us.
The island signed a new physician services agreement in 2024, but its rollout faced pushback over proposed patient targets, with some doctors saying their concerns were dismissed. Late last year, parties reached a deal. The framework offers 2 models for doctors who provide ongoing care. One sets a minimum of 1,600 patients, another a minimum of 1,300, close to the national average. Doctors who fall short are expected to grow their roster, and financial incentives are tied to panel sizes over 1,600.
I can't work any harder than I've been working. An incentive to ask me to do more is a disincentive.
Austin has nearly 1,400 patients who will need to find a new doctor when she moves to Nova Scotia in a couple years. Dr. David Antle says on paper the targets are reasonable and important, but every practice is different.
Someone might have a very older panel of patients that require more time. Some might have a heavier mental health case burden.
In a news release, a Health PEI spokesperson said in February alone, the agency held more than 60 individual meetings and several town halls to listen to physician perspectives. This month, it plans to create an advisory panel to do more of that work. Austin isn't the only doctor stepping back. 2 others have told Health PEI in recent weeks they'll be closing their practices. That means new names added to the province's waitlist for a provider, which already has more than 33,000 people on it. Maria Saru, CTV News, Summerside, Prince Edward Island.
The winds of change are howling in the energy industry. A consulting firm warns unless maritime governments act fast, they will see billions in economic opportunity blow right by them. CTV's Nick Moore explains.
A new report from Deloitte says time is running out for the region to take full control of what could result in $100 billion of economic growth from offshore wind, hydro, and nuclear energy.
It's a once-in-a-generation economic opportunity, and really the window to grab it is closing.
The Deloitte report says Atlantic Canada is well positioned on both the continental and global energy markets to provide what is categorized as clean energy. Matt Campbell is the energy transformation lead for Deloitte in Atlantic Canada and says current projects, such as the development of Nova Scotia's offshore wind industry, needs to be carried out with regional collaboration in mind.
When you're thinking about developing the offshore wind industry, well, what does that mean for industries that can use that electricity? What does that mean for the clean fuel sector? What does that mean in terms of transmission, getting those electrons to market through New Brunswick, through Quebec?
There are growing calls from all sectors of the energy space in Atlantic Canada for improving regional collaboration.
Eddie Oldfield is the Maritimes Director of Policy for the Canadian Renewable Energy Association and says while there has been recent examples of one-on-one agreements between the Atlantic provinces, more can be done.
There is, at the moment, no formal process in place to do integrated energy resource planning and long-term energy planning.
The Deloitte report says a goal of adding 600 megawatts of small modular reactors at the Point Lepreau nuclear generating station is key to the region's opportunity for $100 billion in economic growth. New Brunswick Green Party leader David Kuhn says energy such as wind and solar should be the collective regional focus.
Nuclear energy sucks all the oxygen out of the on the capital side, of the investment side, because the costs are so high.
The report says whether or not it's Atlantic Canada, the energy will have to come from somewhere, with the country's need for electricity projected to double by 2050. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Got a restaurant reservation? Tickets for a game, a show? Maybe you plan to do some Saturday shopping in downtown Halifax? If so, you'll have to have some cash with you. The city is leaning on motorists to help pay bills. CTV's Vanessa Wright has the story.
The days of free street parking in Halifax on Saturdays are over.
It'll be tough for small businesses and it could hurt the economy. And in light of the other alleged budget cuts, I'm not sure it's the best look for the city.
City Council unanimously voted to implement paid parking on Saturdays in downtown Halifax, Spring Garden Road, and downtown Dartmouth. The pay period will run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., though the city says the first hour of parking on Saturdays will be free.
Yep, I voted in favor of the Saturday increase because we're kind of out of step with the rest of cities our size, so I was okay with bringing that one in.
But others, not so much. The Spring Garden Area Business Association calls the move disappointing.
Saturday is the busiest shopping day in the downtowns, and it's one of the busiest days for events. So now you're going to the farmers market, you're going to pay. You're going to Scotia Centre. That's probably another $5 to $10 on your parking bill.
Which means a greater chance people will turn away from shopping downtown, something businesses in the area already struggle with.
Customers generally are complaining to us about the parking situation downtown. Difficult to find a spot, and they find it very frustrating. So to add a payment on Saturday morning is certainly not going to make people happy.
The city says the move will generate more than $400,000.
You know, I understand the city's motivation. They need to raise money. They have a deficit budget. But I think the money which they're going to receive from Saturday morning parking isn't going to make much of a dent in the deficit, whereas I think it is going to make a dent in the attitude of people coming downtown.
Well, the city says this is already working in other parts of the country, like in Calgary and Montreal, where they don't charge for parking on Saturdays. And this is one of the things that people are kind of upset about. Drivers and businesses hope that it will be reversed sometime soon, although we don't know if that's going to happen. So for right now, they're pretty upset about it, Todd.
All right, Vanessa Wright near downtown Halifax right now. Thank you for that. We're going to stay in Halifax for a moment. The city wants commuters to use public transit, and that's becoming a tough sell with a ferry service hobbled with problems. It has the mayor suggesting it might be time to replace ferries that in some cases are less than a decade old. Here's Callum Smith.
Issues with the city's ferry service are piling up. Just today, the Woodside ferry missed a trip back and forth due to maintenance during the lunch hour. On Tuesday, the Alderney ferry missed its first run for the same reason. That's all on top of the Alderney service, connecting Halifax to downtown Dartmouth, reduced every half hour for most of the day, almost 3 months ago.
It really is unacceptable that we don't have this 15-minute service that I think people enjoy and need to get back and forth simply to work, not to mention just exploring our great municipality.
An issue with the steering system on the Vincent Coleman was to blame. The ferry, put in service 8 years ago, now showing its age.
It's unfortunate. The ferry is traditionally our most reliable transit option. You know it's always going to be there. So it is unfortunate having that down to 30 minutes.
A lot of people are finding that unreliable right now, which is an unfortunate place to be in.
The mayor wonders if it's time to buy a new ferry or ferries, suggesting a private sector partnership like Boston's could help ease the burden on taxpayers.
With the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority using privately owned boats that are charter boats that are being put into service as commuter vehicles during peak hour, but then during the other hours they're going back about their business.
Initially, the ferry was due back in service at the end of January, then late February, now expected back later this month.
It has to be. It's not about hope. We can't hope when it comes to transit service. We've got to make it happen.
Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
Time for a break. Still to come, bundle up for yet another cold night. Kaylin returns with the full forecast. But next, and speaking of weather, we look at the effects of our current freeze-thaw cycle.
It's getting to the time that you definitely need to be wary.
Warnings, precautions, and repairs that are a result of milder weather and chilly nights. That's next. Reading the thermometer around the region this week has kind of been like riding a seesaw. You go up, you go down. With the fluctuating temperatures come a range of issues and warnings, as our Avery McRae tells us.
At the Dominion Park Ice Fishing Village in St. John, just a few huts remain in what was a bustling community less than a week ago. A sign the conditions are changing, like the temperatures.
It's getting to the time that you definitely need to be wary.
Temperatures in the port city hit 5 degrees yesterday before dropping back down to the minuses today and could then hit double digits next week. Musquash Fire Chief Wayne Pollock says as the lakes soften, people need to be extra prepared when traveling along frozen waterways.
We've been fortunate this year that we haven't had any ice rescue calls. You got to be careful on that, and we try to impress upon people to test the ice before you go on it, especially this time of year.
It has also produced pothole problems. In St. John, the drive around the city is already becoming a bumpy commute, despite the fact the city has already repaired around 750 road blemishes in 2026.
We are working our hardest at this time of year between the snowstorms to fix potholes, but definitely once the first plant opens up with some fresh hot mix asphalt, we'll be going at it very rigorously.
O'Reilly also notes starting Monday in the southern half of the province, spring weight restrictions on trucks come into effect, which will help the pothole plague. As for if this teeter-totter of the thermometer is common for this time of year, CTV Atlantic Chief Meteorologist says it's normal as the spring season approaches and expects more of the same in the weeks ahead.
I typically expect that the month of March we get on that temperature roller coaster where especially during the days we go from above freezing temperatures, sometimes by several degrees, and it's not uncommon that for a span of a couple of days you can even get high temperatures that climb up to low teens for parts of the Maritimes.
Before the nights bring us back to the feelings of a frozen February. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
Well, that expert who you saw in the piece there by Avery will join us in a couple minutes' time to talk about a chilly Friday. We'll close out the week with some pretty icy temperatures. Your moment of zen. Yes, soaring over Manitou, Cape Breton this afternoon. Plenty of sunshine. Certainly chilly along the coast. That's not going to change, but...
sometimes we have those days where you know, the temperatures are a little bit chilly, but if you're in the sun and you're not catching the wind, it can feel quite warm. Today was not one of those days.
Cold all around.
Yeah, even if you were in the sun today, it was pretty cold. There was only basically one part of the Maritimes that managed to squeak a couple degrees above the freezing mark, and that was right in the southwest of Nova Scotia. That was about it.
All right.
Let's take a look at some weather conditions across the country. We'll go back to our forecast, and we're not the only ones who are experiencing some cold, although the edge of the cold has come out of the air for parts of Alberta for today. Edmonton is sitting at 3 degrees currently, and Calgary is sitting at 4. It's still colder, though, in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Winnipeg right now sitting at around -9. Of course, colder air up north. Whitehorse -14. Yellowknife sitting at -23, and Iqaluit at -24. In southern Ontario, their temperatures are starting to come down as well. Rain being reported Toronto right now, 2 degrees, but there is a concern for freezing rain tonight in parts of southern Ontario. Ottawa sitting at -4, Montreal around -7. Here in the Maritimes, it's quite cold right now, -6 at Fredericton, -9 in Halifax, -12 at Charlottetown, and -12 at St. John's in Newfoundland. That weather system that's bringing in the risk of freezing rain to southern Ontario tonight is actually making its way through the northeastern United States, but looks like it will hold far enough to the south of us here in the Maritimes that we're not really going to catch any of the precipitation from it. There will be some of the cloud cover on the northern edge of that weather system that hangs around southwestern areas of New Brunswick tonight and the southwest of Nova Scotia, but the precipitation remains far enough towards the south that we don't get into it. Friday for tomorrow around the Maritimes, looking at fairly sunny conditions in Prince Edward Island, northern eastern areas of Nova Scotia, eastern areas of New Brunswick, and then a bit more of a mix of sun and cloud in western areas of New Brunswick and in the southwest of Nova Scotia. Winds do change direction, though, for Friday. They're going to become east and then southeast as we move from the morning into the afternoon. They'll be sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. The potential of some gusts for Prince Edward Island between 20 and 40. And for Nova Scotia, the potential for some gusts between 20 and 50 kilometers per hour. But the gusts 30 to 50 mostly around exposed areas of the Atlantic coastline. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight. Many parts of the Maritimes with lows headed down into a range around -10 to -18. Some colder low temperatures expected for communities in the north of New Brunswick, down to the -20s. Some low-lying areas away from the coast in Prince Edward Island could see some low temperatures tonight, down to around -20, -21. Same thing goes for some interior areas of Nova Scotia, especially into the north and east of that province. High temperatures for tomorrow. Not quite as cold as they were today, but still quite chilly, between -2 and -7 across the north of New Brunswick and through central and southern areas of New Brunswick as well. Most of the high temperatures remaining at least a few degrees below the freezing mark. -4 for Moncton. A few communities in the southwest, Macadam, St. Stephen, could get up to around +1. For Prince Edward Island for tomorrow, it's another cold day. The high temperatures around -6, despite the fact that it's going to be mostly sunny. Same thing goes for Cape Breton, with high temperatures between -4 and -6 for the north shore of the mainland of Nova Scotia, -2 to -5. And on the eastern shore, most of the high temperatures around -3, -4. -5 for Amherst for tomorrow, -2 for Truro. The city centers, Halifax and Dartmouth, near -3. In the Annapolis Valley, the high temperatures near 0. -1 for Bridgewater, 0 for Shelburne, and 2 for Yarmouth and Barrington. Now, the weekend ahead, we'll see temperatures rise in the region, but at the same time, we do have some wet weather moving in. It's going to be a mixture of some flurries turning over to showers developing during the day on Saturday for New Brunswick, some patchy drizzle possible for Nova Scotia, and then some light rain and showers makes its way across the Maritimes basically Saturday night and into Sunday. There's a potential for some rainfall amounts, in most cases from a few to several millimeters, some local amounts close to the 10-millimeter mark. Now remember, because temperatures are rising, that wet weather's coming down, there's going to be some snow melt added to that. So if you can, you might want to take a look at drainage systems around your property, or just how that water is going to be draining off your property, and maybe help it out a little bit if you can over the next couple of days. Taking a look at the 7-day planner, then the other thing, of course, that's happening this weekend, not only for New Brunswick but across the Maritimes, is that the clocks are going forward on Sunday. Monday, it's a mix of sun and cloud. I talked about the potential for milder temperatures, and that's really coming up Monday and Tuesday of next week. Looks like some high temperatures could be up in the low teens. On Wednesday, temperatures begin to cool down, and we could see a turn back to some flurries for New Brunswick through the end of the week. For Nova Scotia in the outlook on Saturday, there's that patchy drizzle developing, and then some light rain and drizzle during the day on Sunday. clocks going forward. Mix of sun and cloud, though milder temperatures for Monday and Tuesday, and then temperatures start to tick down towards the end of next week. Chance of a mixture of some flurries and showers. And finally, for Prince Edward Island, in the forecast, temperatures headed up through the weekend. Light rain and drizzle on Sunday. Then a mix of sun and cloud, milder for Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures start to trend down Wednesday into Thursday with a mixture of snow and rain, Todd.
Okay, we'll see you at the end of the show, Kalen. Thank you. Next, we'll talk about spiking fuel costs and what a prolonged war in the Middle East could mean for energy as we head towards spring. Stay with us.
All right, make sure you join us for the Virgin Radio Vault. Your first two clues come with us at 6:10 and 8:10.
And tomorrow around 7:30 is your shot at $100 in gas. Good luck.
Welcome back. We're going to return to the Middle East. This afternoon, PEI's Regulatory Commission announced that gasoline will rise 6 cents a litre tonight. Now, of course, that follows recent jumps around the Maritimes. Joining us tonight is Carole Montreuil. He is with the Canadian Fuels Association, Vice President there of Eastern Canada. And we appreciate your input tonight. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Prices have leapt, as I mentioned, since military action began. Very little Middle Eastern crude oil comes to shore here in Canada, North America. So why would there suddenly be a jump in the retail?
Yeah, it's a great question. And people often ask me the question, if 85% of that crude goes to Asia, why are we impacted in North America? And the simple answer is that even though we won't miss any barrels in North America, as you know, Canada is a very large producer, so is the US, all of the trading platforms, however, whether you're talking Middle East, like England and London, New York, as we've seen Monday morning in New York when markets open, all these markets are connected. So when prices go up in one market, they're all connected together and prices go up at the same time, even if some of that crude is not making its way to North America.
Integrated, it's been instantaneous.
Exactly. And it's always the case because obviously when these conflicts erupt, it's not very long that traders very quickly will take positions on these markets. If you're in that market for 30 days, 60 days ahead of time to take a position, well, what are you going to do? You're going to be buying right away additional what we call term contracts to protect yourselves a month ahead. And all of this extra demand puts even more pressure on prices. And of course, people are afraid that if this conflict lasts and escalates for longer, well, all of that production, keep in mind that 20% of the world production goes to that famous Strait of Hormuz, which is currently completely blocked. There's not a ship that's going through as we speak. So that's 20% of the production of the world. So in the short term, countries can tap into their strategic reserves and compensate. But in the long term, it becomes a big problem. And that's what people are afraid of.
I'm sure everybody asks you, when do you see prices returning to what we would call normal the last little while? I'm not going to do that. I think it's probably unfair. But what trending do you see for the coming months?
And honestly, I mean, your crystal ball is as good as mine. And I certainly would not believe anyone making predictions. We've seen analysts out there predicting that if this conflict lasts for too long, prices of crude oil could go as high as $200 a barrel. And it's not me saying that. So you can imagine the rule of thumb, Todd, usually is that $1 US a barrel is typically a penny a liter at the pump in Canada, in Atlantic Canada. So you can imagine, should the price of crude go up by, $25, $50, $60 a barrel, you can imagine the impact at the pump.
Yeah. There have been numerous Middle East conflicts. Does history offer any indications of what could come with this?
Well, it's a great question. And if we go back to the major oil shocks of the 70s, think of 1973, which was the first major oil shock following the Yom Kippur War. At that time, prices went up 4 times. Prices of crude oil quadrupled. During the Iranian Revolution in '79, price doubled. And the important information around these two conflicts during that time, for none of these two conflicts brought a shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz like we have today. So it's very troubling to see what's happening now, given that that region and all the countries involved in the Persian Gulf produces so much of what the world requires that we'll have to be following very, very closely what's going to be happening in the coming weeks. And hopefully this is something that will end in a matter of days and not several weeks or months.
The timing of this event comes as there's been a discussion in this country. Canada is a big producer of oil. Half the country can't access it. Does this perhaps back the argument that that needs to be looked at in a much more serious fashion and something be done about it in a quicker than...
You raise a great question, and this is true. It's true for natural gas. We're a big producer. It's true for crude oil. Canada's a large producer. We produce in excess of what we need, and it's so unfortunate that we don't have the infrastructure, even here in Canada, to bring some of these products to Eastern Canada, Atlantic Canada in particular, where Europe would love to be able to use natural gas from Canada transiting to Atlantic Canada, or use crude oil from Canada as well, transiting to Atlantic Canada. So that's a wake-up call for people to realize that we must have the infrastructure to help leverage the strength that we have in Canada.
Carole Montreuil, the Vice President of the Canadian Fuels Association. Really good conversation. Appreciate your time, and hopefully you'll come back and speak. Yeah, we'd like to get you back on again.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with more of your show. In health headlines, new data shows Generation Z is drinking less and spending less on alcohol, choosing to put that money into healthy activities. That's one of the stories CTV's Amanda Debison has in tonight's edition of The Lifeline.
Maternal mortality rates in the U.S. have dropped to their lowest levels in recent years. The CDC reported a rate of just under 18 deaths per 100,000 births in the U.S. in 2024. That's the lowest figure since 2018, after a spike during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is also worth noting the CDC report found the Black maternal death rate was more than 3 times that of white and Hispanic women. It also showed the death rate for women ages 40 and older was more than 3 times that of younger women. A new study finds that popular GLP-1 drugs used to treat diabetes and obesity show new promise in fighting multiple substance use disorders. An analysis of electronic health records of more than 600,000 U.S. veterans with diabetes found that users of drugs such as Ozempic and Mounjaro were less likely to develop addictions to substances like alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, and opioids than those treated with another class of drugs. And they prevented serious harms like overdose and deaths. Researchers say the results must be confirmed in future randomized controlled trials. Finally, Gen Z is apparently trading in bar stools for barbells. A new study from the Bank of America Institute finds members of that younger generation are drinking less and socializing more through physical activities. The study also found that alcohol spending as a share of household budgets is hovering near 40-year lows. It also found spending at liquor stores is declining, while bar spending is still on the rise. However, Gen Z is also seeing spending growth for fitness and active hobbies compared to big bar tabs. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Entertainment now. We're on the scene. One of television's most beloved homes, the Brady Bunch house, is now a permanent city landmark in Los Angeles. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has more on what it means for that particular piece of TV history.
Here's the story of a lovely lady. The Brady Bunch, all 9 of them, including Alice, packed into this split-level ranch for 6 glorious seasons starting in 1969.
We got fantastic news! What?
Where's that at? The show, the family, the shag carpet, even that floating staircase becoming cultural fixtures. But it was the house that drew the crowds and still does.
If you're my age, you know what that house is by me.
Now, the Los Angeles City Council has declared the Brady Bunch house an official cultural monument in a unanimous vote Wednesday. The status means the house in the San Fernando Valley is protected from demolition. The truth is, the show was actually shot on a soundstage, and the exteriors of the house were just used to establish scenes. But that didn't stop a bidding war in 2018, with HGTV buying the ranch for $3.5 million and creating a new show, a very Brady renovation. Cast members taking today on a tour of the construction site.
I literally did not even know where this place was until 1990.
Yeah, most people on the show had never been actually inside this house.
The actors from the Brady Bunch tore down the interiors and helped recreate their TV home, including that staircase. Now there are new owners who opened the house to the public for the first time last fall for limited private tours. A piece of historic Americana that became the star of the show.
That's the way we became the Brady Bunch.
Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter. Get registered for Aaron and Peter's payroll. We could be calling out your name Monday at 8.
And join us for another Foodie Friday tomorrow at 8. And a part of my anatomy may never be the same.
On the markets, the Dow Jones ended the day down 784 points, and there is reports about more layoffs coming to the tech sector. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has more.
Bloomberg is reporting that Oracle plans to cut thousands of jobs. The company faces a cash crunch in part because of how much it's spending to build data centers. Oracle is an IT company that has over 160,000 employees around the world. The company isn't commenting on the report. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 73.16. West Texas Intermediate is up close to $5 at 79.43. Western Canadian Select is down to 60.39. And the TSX lost another 332 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Stocks down, so are the temperatures. Galen?
Oh, they certainly are. It is a much colder evening out here on the weather deck, and it's going to be a bitterly cold night for many parts of the Maritimes. I want to take you to our viewer picture for tonight, though, and this is another one of those great lunar eclipse pictures I received from earlier this week. This one coming in from Mark Potvin from Dominion, Nova Scotia, and you can see the partial eclipse beginning there. Great picture, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Dominion for tomorrow is going to be sunny, but it's going to be another cold day, especially cold in the morning, but even in the afternoon, the high temperature will be around -5. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritimes. Many communities starting off the day with temperatures down in the minus teens, some in the -20s, especially northern areas of New Brunswick. It'll be a mix of sun and cloud with the most cloud cover around the southwest of that province as well as the southwest of Nova Scotia. For Friday afternoon around the Maritimes, the high temperatures mostly remain at least a few degrees below the freezing mark. Some of the colder temperatures during the day around parts of the north of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and the north and east of Nova Scotia. It'll be a mix of sun and cloud with a breezy southeast wind. Temperatures, though, coming up on the weekend. Let's find out what's ahead on Your Morning Atlantic.
Friday on Your Morning Atlantic, The Fake Matchmaker.
That is the title of a new romance novel by author Sonia Singh, and she'll join us for a bookish chat.
Start your morning with us Friday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally for us tonight, International Women's Day is Sunday, and Barbie is celebrating the day this year with a new collection. Mattel says the Dream Team lineup honors female pioneers, including that tennis legend right there, Serena Williams, and astronaut Kelly Girardi. Other dolls in the collection represent the race car driver who you saw there, Regina Servant Alvarado from Mexico, soccer player Cleo Kelly from the UK, and German pop artist Helen Fischer. Look at that. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco will be here at this desk at 11:30, ctvnewsatlantic.ca, and the CTV News app have our updates. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you here tomorrow. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.